Okay, we ready to roll? Okay,
You're fine.
you're fine. You come on up, Shay. Okay, I'm assuming we're ready. Okay, we need the.
Come on.
Okay,
Come on.
yeah, tighter weave. All right. Okay, Adrian, we need you on up here. Thank you. Well, let me begin by thanking everybody for being here this morning. This is actually an extraordinary event in terms of temperature that we're experiencing, and we're likely to have this stay with us for a good while. And I want to just start by saying, who said the city and the county can't work together? We want to just assure everyone that the agencies of this region are ready, the city as well as the county, and I think they'll speak in just a few minutes about what they're doing in terms of their preparedness. We want to make sure that everyone stays safe. This is extraordinary weather, especially for the elderly and those that are of young children. And we're going to be providing some vital information to the public today about what they can do to ensure that we keep everyone safe. And we're going to try to keep this at some rhythm so that we can keep informing the media as well as the public about what this weather event continues to look like as we go into the future here. I would like now to call on Mayor Watson, who has a few remarks.
Thank you, Manager. I just want to briefly talk about a couple of things, and then I want you to hear from the experts that can give the public the kind of information that you really want. And just point out a couple of things. One is to reiterate what the manager has said. We want the people of Austin and Travis County to be safe. And so what we're going to try to do is on a routine basis is make sure that there's information provided. That information is not only about how you can stay safe, but it's also giving information that you might want to pay attention to, people might want to pay attention to, so that they'll know what can happen under certain types of circumstances. A couple of quick things that I do want to emphasize, and they sound like basic common sense, but the experience with heat is people sometimes think, well, I can beat the heat. You know, it's something that I'll be able to get through this. But with this heat and this humidity, it's dangerous, and we need to pay attention to that. So, for example, one of the things that we're telling people is look before you lock. In other words, make sure that children and pets are not in a car, even if you think it's going to be for a very short period of time. Don't put them in that car and lock them in the car, because the heat can go up very rapidly and be dangerous. The other is stay hydrated. A lot of folks think, I've had enough to drink, I've had enough water, but the truth of the matter is that you're out there even just walking the dog and it can get you. So what we want people to do is also stay hydrated. Pets, I've just mentioned not leaving pets in a car, but pets that are left outside, you need to pay attention to them as well, because this is an extreme heat. And then work and play safely and check in on people. If you've got elderly neighbors, you've got elderly family, you've got friends that you need to check in on from time to time, please go ahead and do that. Like I say, I'm going to turn it over now, but I want to say one last thing, and that is we have started the process of preparing for this, both at the city and at the county level. I'm very pleased that the manager is in the position that he's in to help coordinate what's going on. You're going to see that there's been a lot of thought. Director Snipes is also here, someone that is on top of this, and we've already held the kinds of meetings that need to be held as part of emergency operations to begin that process. So I believe we'll be in a position to inform the public. And then the final thing I want to say is we have a lot of really great employees, both city and county, and many of them are going to be out doing jobs in this heat in order to continue to do the public service that we need them and expect them to do. Thank a public employee that is doing the kind of work that we need them to do in order for us to stay safe and for us to stay comfortable. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our county judge, Andy Brown.
Thanks. Thanks, Mayor. I'm Travis County Judge Andy Brown. I want to thank the mayor and the city manager for holding this conference and inviting me here today. It's obviously really hot. It's both the heat and the humidity. Over 100 degrees outside. It's going to stay that way for many days. I want people to take this seriously. It is, as the mayor said, there's simple precautions that you can take. It's not too complicated. If you go outside, drink plenty of water. Don't stay outside too long. Take breaks. Listen to your body. We still are in Texas, and there's still a Texas power grid. I think you're going to hear a little bit more in the later on in this press conference about conservation methods. It's not like Winter Storm Uri, but we still need everybody to help on a voluntary basis conserve energy. You're going to hear a little bit about that later, especially during peak usage times from 4 p.m. till 11 p.m. Inside your home, this could mean turning up your thermostat a little bit, keeping your shades closed to prevent sun from getting into your house. Seems pretty basic, but it actually works. Unplug appliances you're not using, turn off lights when you're not in the room, things like that your dad always tells you to do. And at commercial businesses, we're trying to do this at the county too, making sure that any buildings that we're not using, any floors that we're not using, we're not air conditioning, not lighting, things like that. And even the ones that we are using, turning up the temperature a little bit to try to save a little bit of energy. We've got cooling centers at the county. The city has several. The county has several. We have about 6 of them. Pilar Sanchez, who's the head of Health and Human Services for Travis County, is out making sure that those 6 are up and working today, and they're available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. as cooling stations. They've been that way for a couple days, and I got to say there have not been a lot of people coming into these cooling stations so far, which I think is a good sign, but they're there if you need them. If things get worse, I want to make sure that you are signed up for Warren Central Texas, which is a place that you can get alerts from your local government about what to do if things do get worse in this situation. I really appreciate what the mayor said about thanking a public servant. There's a lot of folks that are going to be working a lot of hours over the next few weeks through the summer. Please thank them, and please listen to Warren Central Texas and stay hydrated. Thank you very much, and I will turn it over, Mayor, to Director Ken Snipes.
Thank you, Judge.
Yep.
Good morning. Ken Snipes, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I want to start by acknowledging all of the people who are working across the city and county, public workers who are out working in the heat. Some of them do not have the ability to work in an office, so we really want to thank all those women and men who are out taking care of our city. As it relates to our heat, each year the county and the city work to prepare for heat. This is nothing new for the teams that we have. We start this process early, and we work towards keeping people safe. When the heat index reaches well above 100, we know each year that it poses risk to people. We encourage Austinites to stay hydrated, stay cool, and stay safe during these conditions, and to be aware of what to do if you come across someone who may be showing signs of a heat illness. We offer cooling centers. The City of Austin's recreation centers and libraries are available to people who may need them for cooling services. The cooling centers can serve as a reprieve from the heat, allowing people and their service animals an opportunity to get a break. For more on that, you can visit our website at austintexas.gov/alerts. And a few heat safety tips that we like to pass along. Again, we ask everyone to stay hydrated. Remember to drink water regularly, even if you're not thirsty. And in particular, protect yourself if you're outside doing work-related activities or otherwise. Wear loose clothing, take breaks in the shade, and practice safety while you're out on the water if you're taking advantage of water-related activities. And also remember to keep your pets safe as well. Thank you.
Chief Director Stirrup, I think, is next. Yeah, on the list. Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Adrienne Stirrup, Austin Public Health. My mama always said if you heard something more than 3 times, it must be true. So a lot of the messages that you hear today will be repeated, and because we believe that it is the best, true, and most accurate information that we can offer our public to stay safe. And so we talked a lot about what we can do generally right as citizens and residents of Austin and Travis County to keep ourselves safe. But I want to draw attention to those members of our community that might be at higher risk to heat illnesses. And I'm talking about pregnant people, people with heart or lung conditions, young children, older adults, athletes, folks who are working outdoors, and those who are unhoused. And so I'm going to focus on our aging population and those who are unhoused for our comments. As Director Snipes says, we have been preparing for this moment before we got here. There is an amazing team of epidemiologists at Austin Public Health that track the heat. We do heat surveillance, and we provide those reports to our partners. And that information and data is really what drives our decisions and helps us plan for the activities that you'll hear more about. But we also have a strong connection with a lot of social service providers in our community because as a city and a county, we really believe that it takes a village. And so we know as government entities, we can't do that alone. And we have great connections with our nonprofits, and we have listservs for nonprofits that serve the unhoused population, letting them know where our cooling centers are, letting them know the resources that are available. If you are a social service agency and you're hearing this message and you're not signed up for that listserv, you can call 311 and get signed up today. Of course, you know, our external partners are important, but our internal team as well, and it's represented very well today. It's APH, it's Austin Energy, it's HESM, it's parks, it's libraries. We're really making sure that we're activating all the resources that we have to bring to bear to make sure that we're ready should this extreme weather event continue longer than we planned or that nature has planned. The other comments that I want to make is that there will be messaging about transportation for cooling centers. That is, again, sent out through that texting service. So if you are an individual, please warn Central Texas. Very good. If you're a social service agency that serves the unhoused or the aging population, please call 311 so you can get those pushed out notifications to you automatically. We're also doing extensive outreach with our Council on Aging and their key stakeholders to make sure that our residents who might live by themselves and need additional assistance are aware of the services that we might be able to bring to bear should they find themselves in an emergent situation where their AC is going out or they just need a place to cool off, or maybe they live in an older home that doesn't have central AC. We can help them out and give them transportation to a cooling center so they have the opportunity to stay cool during the day. Cap Metro is providing free transportation to cooling centers. A person just has to get on the bus and say, I'm going to this location, and they will get a ride there. In the event that this emergency continues and we need to stand up additional sheltering resources, we do have an existing partnership with Urban League to provide sheltering services for community and those who are unhoused. And for the unhoused population, also our partner Urban Alchemy is opening their doors at the Arch, which is the Austin Resource Center for Homelessness, to offer opportunities for those who are without housing to come in during the day, be cool, get water, and maybe even get connected to some housing services. So again, all the good things you heard today. If your lips are dry and you feel kind of chapped, you probably already need some water, so get you a glass, stay hydrated. Take breaks if you're working outdoors in the shade, and check on your neighbor, right? Check on your Meemaw, check on the neighbor next door that you see out walking her dog. Make sure that she's staying safe and hydrated. And if you are walking your pets, make sure we're protecting their paws. That concrete gets really hot. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Chief Lickritz from EMS.
Good morning, everyone. Rob Lickritz, Chief of Austin Travis County EMS, and I think you're going to hear some recurring themes here with some of the things that I'm going to share with you. But first and foremost, I want to assure you that Austin Travis County EMS is well prepared for this heat, and we've been taking multiple different tacks to make sure that we have all the resources available to serve the community. Our community health paramedic team has been working very diligently. They are actively participating and reaching out to the most vulnerable in the community, both unhoused individuals and others that they encounter every day, ensuring that they have adequate water, ensuring that they are aware of all of the cooling centers that are available, and the bus routes that they can take to get there. Today, we'll be hosting a pop-up resource center for persons experiencing homelessness at the Trinity Center downtown to provide them with additional resources that they may need, both in the normal course of their lives as well as to address the specific needs during this heat emergency. In addition, our collaborative care line, our 911 center is prepared to divert additional calls away from the 911 system to provide resources to individuals that may be experiencing undue hardships or things that may be affecting them and their medical care as a result of the heat. Much as in we did with Winter Storm Mara, we are anticipating the ability to divert additional calls and provide those resources to them without an undue strain on the 911 system. Just yesterday, the collaborative care line was able to assist with providing box fans through our partners at Family Elder Care to a client who did not have any means or air conditioning at home, and we hope to continue to provide those additional services to the community to ensure that our most vulnerable are provided with those services. Our field operations is prepared for an increase in call volume. Already in the past 2 weeks, we've seen a dramatic increase in calls for heat-related emergencies. Since April 1st, we've seen 166 incidents that were triaged as heat-related. 92 of those were in June, and 88 occurred within the last 2 weeks. Just yesterday afternoon, we responded to an emergency for for a patient who was experiencing symptoms of heat-related illness. The patient was unconscious before the arrival of paramedics, and we were able to successfully resuscitate that individual. That being said, it's important to recognize that we all need to understand the signs and symptoms of heat-related illness. Signs of heat exhaustion include profuse sweating, dizziness, weakness, pale or clammy skin, a fast, weak pulse, and nausea or vomiting. If you're experiencing those symptoms, you need to be very well aware of that. And most importantly, if you stop sweating, you need to be aware of that. All too many individuals that are out there in the community, they feel better when they stop sweating. They feel like they're not as wet and able to go on with their business. If you are out there, if you're exercising, if you're walking, if you're with your family, and you stop sweating, you need to stop immediately, get yourself into a cool environment, drink plenty of fluids, and if necessary, if you're experiencing severe vomiting or any type of altered mental status, call 911. Most importantly, as was mentioned earlier, please keep an eye on your neighbors, on the young and the most vulnerable. If you do have a neighbor that you're worried about that does not have adequate resources to stay cool, you can contact Austin Travis County EMS. We will be able to assist you in providing those resources to them that they may need. And most importantly, as was said earlier, please be very, very conscious in your motor vehicle. If you have a child that is in the back seat, please make sure that you are putting something in the back seat so that you ensure that you check on those individuals. It is a tragedy every time an incident occurs with someone that is left in a vehicle. If you're in a vehicle that is in over 72 degrees of heat, there's a potential that that person could be permanently injured or die. And so in this current heat that we're experiencing right now, it is critical that you make sure that you put your cell phone, put your purse, put whatever you need to make sure that when you leave that vehicle, you're checking on that individual. As always, Austin Travis County EMS is prepared and ready to respond, and we are prepared to tackle this like any other emergency that we may see. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll introduce Interim General Manager Stu Riley.
Good morning. I'm Austin Energy Interim General Manager Stuart Riley. At Austin Energy, we are ready for these summer temperatures we're seeing. We know how critical electric service is to our customers and our community, especially in the extremely hot weather like this. Austin Energy constantly maintains and monitors its system to ensure performance during extreme summer conditions. Meanwhile, ERCOT is monitoring conditions on its statewide electric grid, and Austin Energy is in continuous contact with ERCOT, and we will follow any ERCOT direction that may come. Yesterday, ERCOT called for voluntary conservation of electricity due to extreme temperatures and high electric demand. An ERCOT call for voluntary conservation is a pre-emergency measure. After that, ERCOT has 3 Energy Emergency Alert, or EEA, levels that can further manage supply and demand of the statewide electric grid. In an EEA 1, that is a critical conservation call. That would come, and ERCOT would also formally call on any available power supply to come online. Then to an EEA 2, conservation becomes even more critical to prevent controlled outages, and ERCOT will call on demand response from large industrial customers at that point as well. It is not until an EEA 3 level, the highest and most severe alert, that ERCOT mandated controlled outages would be possible as a last resort to stabilize the electric grid. We would not expect such controlled outages to be long in duration, but rather something to get through an extreme afternoon summer peak. Austin Energy keeps a current conditions page on its website where you can find up-to-date information about local conditions as well as a statewide grid, along with tips for saving energy at austinenergy.com/go/alerts. It's very important for us all to participate in these energy conservation alerts needed to support the ERCOT grid, and so we ask that customers please do so when those calls for conservation do come. Some ways to conserve energy while staying cool are to raise the thermostat by a few degrees and use fans in the room that you are in to make yourself feel cooler. Also, close shades and curtains to keep out direct sunlight, and avoid turning on large appliances such as dryers and ovens during the hottest hours of the day. Following these tips can make a difference and reduce energy bills as well as help the grid. For today, ERCOT has issued a weather watch and is not currently experiencing any emergency conditions, nor do we expect emergency conditions from ERCOT for the remainder of the week. Meanwhile, staff at Austin Energy, whether in our contact center, our control center, or out in the field, are working here in our community to support our customers and respond to any needs as we continue through this extreme summer heat. And with that, I will pass it back to the mayor for any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, thank you, everybody that's reported out here, and thank you all for being here. Again, I want to reiterate that we will, on a routine basis, ask you back because we want to make sure that if there are additional questions or additional or different developments, we're in a position to provide that information to the public in advance. And there can be, as you can see from the reports that you've heard, there'll be some preparation, or at least people will be aware of what could come. And with that, what we'll do is answer a few questions, and go ahead.
So we're following up today on the fact that with workers out in the field, especially first responders, that a third of the fire trucks are reported to not have air conditioning. Are you aware of that? Is that something they're working on, or where are we on that?
Yes, we are aware of that, and we've got a plan to get them repaired. It's my understanding that that was called to our attention earlier this week, and we're working as fast as we can to get those back in service.
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, the Austin Animal Center recently expressed some pretty serious concern, already dealing with overcrowding, and
Right.
then their big portico broke. Is the city stepping in at all, just at least during this
Yes.
hot time, to help with that?
Yes, I appreciate you asking that. One of the things we probably should have brought up as we were talking about things, that is one of the things that we're obviously watching very closely. As you know, I guess it was this past weekend, there was we waived all fees for adoption of pets and that sort of thing. The city is going to continue to have that policy in effect, where we're waiving all fees for the foreseeable future, so that what we can do is hopefully that will better manage capacity issues. So yes, we're going to, and right now we believe we have a situation where all the animals can be indoors, but we don't want there to be a situation, sadly with the 4th of July. We know that what happens on the 4th of July is we all often see an uptick in the number of animals at the animal shelter. So we're anticipating that and moving to make sure that we can manage capacity through hopefully more and more adoptions. And I would point that out to the public that if you want to be a foster, you want to foster a pet, or you want to adopt a pet, now is a wonderful time to do that, to help those pets. And we're taking every action to make sure that that's easy for those that want to do that.
And do you know if they've been able to replace the portico that broke?
I do not know the answer to that.
Question for either city manager or the mayor from Univision. When it comes to the whole idea of the workers, I know you tweeted about this morning. I know the city ordinance says that you have a break of 10 minutes for water every 4 hours, but with the new law at the Texas level, has anyone from your legal department looked at it? I know there's a line where it kind of indicates that if the ordinance was already in place before January 2023, it
Well,
stays,
we don't-
is it gonna be enforced or not?
It doesn't require that level of reading between the lines. That law does not become effective until September 1 of this year. So the ordinance is still in effect through September 1.
The question is gonna stay after the fact?
Well,
After September, is that something the
law-
city is
law-
gonna try to enforce?
The law was meant to preempt what the city did. And so that law preempts what the city did, but for right now, that ordinance remains in effect.
Mayor, I have a question for you or Judge Brown. So when ERCOT put out their voluntary conservation notice yesterday, they requested that government agencies, city and county offices, reduce energy usage at their facilities. Did that happen here in Austin and Travis County, and can you explain what that will look like in the future?
Let's let the expert talk about it.
Yes, when Austin Energy receives that word from ERCOT for that call for conservation, and in their press release they mentioned that government facilities should reduce their consumption, we inform all of our partners at city facilities, and we take measures at our facilities, and the city does so at its facilities to reduce consumption, lowering unnecessary lighting, raising the temperature a little bit on the thermostats, just to be a part of that and participate in that energy conservation. Absolutely.
And that did happen yesterday?
Yes.
Got it.
We're a week into the excessive heat warning, and we're now having this press conference. We noticed the same thing back in February during the freeze. Is there any plan to be more proactive in these weather events?
That's what I've said over and over again, is that we're going on a routine basis provide information so that people stay up to date. Up until now, you're right, it's been a week of hot, but it's not unusual to be hot in Texas. But when we evaluate where it appears we're going to go, of course you all have people on staff that give us weather reports all the time, but one of the things that they'll tell you is that we're at a point where we felt like it was a defining line where, while we might have the next couple of days, Thursday and Friday, we might see some decrease in temperatures. We expect that there's going to be a surge through the weekend and into next week, and so it became, we felt it's important to begin the drumbeat of providing this sort of information, and we'll continue to do it on a routine basis. Why don't we do one more question?
Has there been any conversation around possibly extending the cooling center hours? It sounds like most of them close at 5, and it's still very hot at 5.
Yeah, well, two things. One is we're going to have the cooling centers available as long as it takes, and yes, we're looking at what we will do in terms of how you go into the evening, and we've even begun the process of evaluating whether or not we're going to have overnight cooling centers. We're going to judge that as we go along, but yes, all of those things are on our radar because we want to provide whatever we can to make sure that we get through this safely.
Please, just one more question for Austin Energy, if possible, after Mr. Gatsa.
Because I think it's important on the cooling centers. I think there's issues that had been written about the emergency shelters that that we were lagging behind. I think if anything that's happened with respect to this heat wave is the absolute essential piece with respect to services that we provide people who experience homelessness. It's absolutely critical, and that's why we need to keep moving down on the long term to make sure we have places for those individuals to go. It is not safe for them to be under bridges when it's 105 degrees outside, and so we need to keep working on that.
Before you ask that question, I had one other, just on general preparation. The mayor and I initiated a call yesterday with the Big Five, so that's the City of Austin, the Travis County, AISD. Should I start over? Okay, so yesterday the mayor and I initiated a Big Five call, which is something that we do when we think that emergencies could happen or urgent situations could happen. And so that's a discussion that we have with Austin, ACC, AISD, the City of Austin, Travis County, and University of Texas. Thank you. So in that, we talk generally about what the situation is with these large governmental entities, what if there are any unmet needs, which there were not among the 5 entities. And we're going to keep having calls like that with relevant folks around. But I just wanted to let y'all know that this is something we're taking very seriously, the mayor and I and the rest of the city and the county staff, and it's something that we've been looking at for several days and talking to different organizations around the community. Thanks.
This is last question here for Austin.
Yeah, for Austin Energy, any last messages specifically for those who are still, trying to get that trust again back with the utility? I know you're going to have more communication, and that's good. I'm glad about that. But anything that you can tell clients about what is being done with equipment, anything that has to do with making sure I'm not going to lose my AC if it gets to 110. anything you'd like to say about that?
Right, and good question. A lot of that is going to depend on our statewide grid operator ERCOT, and we will follow any instructions that may come along from ERCOT. But at this point, we have crews on standby. We have crews in the field at all times, and we are ready to respond. Those crews are out there working in the heat to support our customers. Every outage that we get on our system, big or small, is an urgent matter for us to address in this kind of heat, as it always is. And so we're out there ready to respond, and we do maintain our system at all times to be ready for this kind of weather. And we're here to support our customers through this. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
One second. Explain if ERCOT says we need to shed, whether we have an option on that sort of thing, because
Appreciate
a lot
it.
of people, and then also, if you don't mind, also talk in terms of what you would expect if ERCOT requires shedding, what you would expect in terms of how long that
Absolutely.
might be and when and that sort of thing.
Yes. So one thing to keep in mind is that if there is a shortage of generation to serve the demand on the ERCOT grid, Austin Energy would get an instruction, just like all providers within ERCOT, and we would be required under ERCOT rules. We'd be mandated to shed load or do the controlled outages as instructed by ERCOT. That's not optional. So that call goes out to all utilities to enact those controlled outages if that were to come about, and we're not exempt from that. So we do our proportionate share of that. And if that were to come about, and I just want to stress that we do not see that currently on the horizon. There's no ERCOT emergency today, nor is there one imminent that we know of. So if that were to come about, what we'd be looking at is not something like a prolonged outage situation. We'd be looking at something very limited in duration, just to get through the afternoon hours, and we would not see something of such a deep level to where we would not be able to rotate outages. So we'd be looking at a very limited time span, and we'd be looking at the capability to be able to easily rotate the outages across our service territory. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here.
That's the $1 million question.